And we are recording. Hello and welcome back to our third episode of SunniDaze. It's good to see you, good to see you. How are you feeling, Alexxa?
Well, not gonna lie, this week has been a little bit stressful, but that's just how it is sometimes.
Ooh, let's hear about it. Why has it been stressful for you?
Well, I've got a lot of schoolwork to do, but I don't really know. It's just been a very stressful week for me as to the schoolwork I'm doing. I'm taking 4 classes, and every single one of them is a computer science class.
Ooh, that's rough. That's
Yeah.
really rough. I used to take computer science and I don't miss it.
Yeah, it's pretty stressful, especially my programming class. I'm not amazing at it. I'm getting by, but I'm not amazing, and
Right.
it's just taken a lot out of me. And I have a project for my networking class, which is also taking a lot out of me, so I'm barely holding on there, but
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that one. But yeah, since I'll be starting school this fall, I'll be doing a master's degree. Yeah, it's going to be hard, and I definitely sympathize with you on that.
well, good thing is that we will both be doing the same thing with our degree, so
Absolutely. We're both going into cybersecurity, for those of you who didn't know that.
his will obviously be master's while mine is an associate's, but
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
yeah, it'll be similar content, but
Exactly.
I honestly love it. Sometimes it's just a little bit stressful. It's the programming that's really taken a chunk out of me.
Oh yeah. I definitely feel you on that one. I took quite a few programming classes and they were probably the bane of my existence. So I'm kind of glad to be out of that from computer science.
I feel like that stereotypical office poster with a little cat hanging on a tree branch. It's like, just hang in there.
Oh yeah. I do. Yeah. But yeah, my week has been pretty good so far. Just been working and on that grind, I guess.
That's good. I'm glad your week has been going good, I love hearing about your week.
Well, thank you. There's sadly nothing too interesting has happened this week, so
I'm very, very relieved to be able to have some time to sit down and chat with you and be able to have a conversation with everybody this week. It's feels good, be able to do what I love.
I definitely agree. But we do have some interesting topics for you today. So on our first episode, we talked about conscious copper and how we kind of alluded to the fact that they're definitely scammers. And so this week, we wanted to talk about scammers in general. Alexxa, what kind of scammers would you say are existing? How would you define a scammer?
Personally, if I want to define a scammer, it would definitely be somebody or an organization of people who is trying to take advantage of people's ignorance.
Okay.
I think, because I think a lot of people have a misconception that scammers are smart, when in reality, I feel as though they are just finding ways to exploit people. And it doesn't take a lot of hard work to do. You just have to know how to exploit people. So to basically summarize my definition, it would be just a group or a person or any individual who is taking advantage of people's ignorance.
That's a really good definition, and I definitely agree with you. Did you have any specific sort of kinds of scammers that are out there these days?
So for today's episode, I would like to categorize the different types of scammers into 2 different groups. So the first group of scammers would be, I would call them cyber scammers, people who are going to use methods such as calling you, emailing you, texting you, just anything over the internet to try to take advantage of you. And then on the other side of that, you're going to have in-person scammers who are people you are physically meeting who are going to take advantage of you, whether that be through work, through friends, just through any sort of like social means, like in-person social means.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I also agree with that. I feel like with some of the on the topic of email and phone scammers, there's been a lot of different types of scams, and one of the most recent ones has actually been COVID-19 scams. I've seen a lot of scammers saying, "Hey, we have one vaccine left, and you got to buy it," and sell it for like 70-80 bucks, and then they just take your money and run with it, really.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. I heard about that one. I was like, dang, that's super scummy of people to do. There's also been like dating and romance scams. People,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you see it all over Facebook. You get some of those like really pretty people that try to friend you, and then they're just like, you definitely know they're not that.
Not to give too much away, but I know somebody who works in the medical field, and they were telling me about this patient they had. This doesn't have anything to do with their medical condition or anything, but they would visit this woman's house, and every time they were at this woman's house, they would talk to this woman about her lover that was in Africa, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And this woman met this person. So this woman got a message from this man who was in Africa, and he claimed that he was a doctor living in Africa, and he started talking to her about his job and how he needs money to get home, and really just talking this woman up, trying to get her to fall in love with him. And it was crazy talking to this person I knew about this. So the person who was telling me about this patient they had felt so bad for them, because every single time they would go over to this woman's house, this woman would be talking about how she wants to leave her husband and how she
Oh.
wants to go. Yeah, this woman was still married. She wants to go visit this man, and he's going to take care of her. She sent him, I think, over $10,000.
Oh
And this
my
woman,
gosh.
yeah, this woman does not have a lot of money. I mean, she really wasn't living it up, and she would ask this person I know for money. And the person I know was like, "No, I'm sorry, I cannot give you money," because they knew it was a scam. They were like, "I am not feeding into this delusion."
Yeah, exactly. How did she send all this money without her actual husband knowing?
So she met this scammer over Facebook. So I assume the husband just really wasn't much on the Facebook or didn't really look after her social media. But it's kind of scary thinking about these people, because this woman was older. She wasn't
Right.
like ancient by any means, but she was definitely old enough to be exploited by this scammer.
Got you. So I'm guessing maybe she handled the finances of the family, and like her husband just didn't notice the money is gone, or like what was the situation with that? Do you know?
I don't really know. The person that was telling me about it didn't really go too much into detail about it, but apparently it was pretty devastating for this woman.
Yeah, that's insane to me. Dang.
I mean, not only is this woman being exploited financially, she's also being like emotionally exploited as well. She thinks this person loves her, and they're not even real.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like there to take her money. Oh man, that's terrible.
It is so terrible.
And along those same lines with being emotionally exploited, they also have fake charities out there that they're scamming people with.
What? How does that work?
I actually haven't even seen any of the fake charities, but I know that they are out there. One of those that I have seen though are the fake jobs and employment.
Oh, so I think I know what you mean by the fake charities and stuff like that. So are you talking about stuff along the lines of people making these GoFundMes and just stealing the money?
There are those, and I know there's also like the sob story charities, like here's an issue I have with like my family, and but yeah, along the lines of the GoFundMes and the Indiegogo campaigns.
I remember back in the day on Tumblr, if any of you were on Tumblr in 2012, 2013, 2014, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There were so many people on there who were just like, I can't pay my rent, or I'm about to lose my service dog, give me this much money. But it would be these same like popular accounts that would keep doing it over and over and over again. And they would really take advantage of people. Like, even these people who are personally not doing well financially
Right.
are basically like, hey, I want to give you money. I know how it is not being in a great position. I'm not in a great position either, but I want to help. So it's really taking advantage of people who even need that money more than these scammers.
Oh yeah, it really has ruined the whole reputation of people who really need the money. It's kind of like the same thing with homeless people, right? There's a lot of panhandlers that aren't actually homeless, that actually just ask for money as a side job, and they have houses and everything, but they make really good money doing that, and it completely ruins it for the actual homeless people, because a lot of people don't know, is like, is this person actually homeless, or are they just faking it? It's kind of along those same lines, I feel like.
Exactly. It really bugs me when people, I'm not going to name names, but I know some people out there are so hateful towards homeless people, and it really chaps my ass, dude. I hate it.
Yeah,
because
definitely
because they have that assumption that, oh, well, they're all just scammers and everything, like you're saying with the panhandlers, and that's just not really true. I feel like a lot of them are people who do genuinely need help. So
exactly, and sadly, a lot of them are veterans from the military of this country, and it's just like, it's super sad to see for the people because these people actually need the money, and then there's of course these others who are just exploiting others just for their own benefit, and it's just terrible to me.
exactly. And so I noticed before we started getting into that topic, you mentioned, what was it?
It was jobs and employment.
The jobs and employment. Okay, I feel so passionately about that because as of right now, I am trying to find a job, and especially with COVID-19 going around right now, there are so many work from home scams, and they steal your information. That's what it is that they'll post these listings on Indeed and Glassdoor and any of those other websites, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And they're doing it just to steal your information. They're not actually wanting to hire you. And it's so frustrating, especially because there are so many people who are out of jobs right now who need legitimate employment, and it's just so frustrating for me. That's another reason why I'm kind of stressed this week, is because I've applied to so many jobs and I can't seem to get anything to stick, and
COVID-19,
it's a little stressful.
Yeah, with COVID-19, it's incredibly hard to get a job, and some of these job and employment scams really make it seem like, oh, this is a super easy job you can get right now. And I remember there was one that I even had told you about that I didn't really read too much into, and then you started reading it, and it was like, hey, they have a 12-week training unpaid, and then they would consider you for the job, and that's a scam, because after this 12 weeks of just straight up free labor, that they're just gonna be like, we don't feel like you perform that great, we're gonna go ahead and pursue somebody else, and they're just gonna do the same thing with everyone they come across.
Exactly. And I'm just gonna mention this. It wasn't just, 12 weeks, just a few days a week. It was a literal 9 to 5 job. You had to go Monday through Friday, and you did not get paid 1 cent for it. That is insane to me.
That is a waste of time.
You're just getting literal free labor. Like,
exactly.
I don't see how that's legal, but okay.
It's definitely not legal. Absolutely illegal. And speaking of other things that are illegal in terms of scams, one that really I hate so much is scams that are just threats. Sometimes you'll get scams, like, say, on your phone that are about, like, hey, we found a old car with your fingerprints on it, and there's like 20 pounds of cocaine in there, and if you don't want to get arrested, you have to pay us $200 to dismiss this case. There's that one. And then there's also one where they will call you and they're like, hey, you have unexpected winnings or money, like you have a $9,000 grant in your name, all you have to do is claim it. And then they get your bank information and steal everything. Oh, I hate it so much.
I see that a lot more with people who are getting messages online about potential sugar daddies or sugar mamas, where they'll be like, hey, I want to be your sugar mama. You don't have to do anything sexual. You don't have to kiss. You don't have to do anything. I just want to spoil you. So give me your bank account information and I will just deposit the money in there for you.
Ooh, no.
I used to get so many of those. Like, it was ridiculous. I knew they weren't real. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. There was one actually while I was working, and he is a faculty at the college I work at, and I'm not going to mention any names because he actually wanted to keep the email relatively private, and I'm not going to mention a lot of details, But he said his wife got this email and it was in her spam folder, but she was just sifting through her spam folder and saw it. And she said, like, the email said something about, like, oh, we have your password. And they actually named one of the passwords she had that she hadn't used in years and years. And it scared him because he was like, how did they get this password? And they're saying, like, other threats saying, like, oh, we're going to get your bank account information. You have to pay us this amount or we'll just take everything. And he emailed me saying, like, is this real? They have one of the old passwords. And I was telling him, like, maybe they found an old website that had really low security and they got some personal data and just mentioned this password to this email, even though you no longer use it. And that's how they're trying to bait people into paying them. And that's incredibly clever, but it's also incredibly scummy.
Yes.
But yeah, it definitely scared him. And I reassured him. I was like, no, just ignore it. They just probably found some old account of your wife's that had low security on their website and they somehow got all the data of these people. Just don't worry about it. If anything happens, just keep an eye on your computer, make sure things aren't different or changed. If they are, then definitely start reporting and calling the police and things like that. But you can always, I told him there was an email he could report it to just in general that our organization handles. So he did that as well.
That's good. It's really unfortunate seeing a lot of people who they just don't know any better. And it's sad that people are really trying to take advantage of people like that.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that. Like, in a way, it's just like, it's crazy that our degree even has to exist.
Right?
What I think is so crazy, not to go on a little rant here, but the amount of people who don't understand how unsafe just the internet in general is. Like, even just going to, like, sites on Google, you think the dark web is bad. The regular internet that you're going on is, like, super unsafe.
Oh, absolutely. Viruses, everything.
It is literally the Wild West. People don't even realize it. Your information can be stolen so easily. It's insane.
Yeah, even just clicking a link, they can have your IP address. They could geolocate you just using that alone. And just like a lot of information is just thrown around every day. There was also that one lady at my organization who emailed us and said, hey, I got a pop-up on Chrome to say, they said, call this number. And she did. And she said she spoke with this guy named Chad who she had to buy a subscription of security because her security was low. Oh, it really it broke my heart to see that it was someone in our own organization. She's a teacher at our college and she did this. We had to get her computer and completely re-image it because it was one of our organization's computers because we don't know what she may have downloaded on there. So we had to completely wipe it. Oh, it was a mess.
That is very unfortunate. I hate that.
Yeah, it was terrible.
So while we're kind of on the topic of scammers getting information from people, I think a really important one to go over is how scammers will take over people's accounts and exploit other people through that. I had this person I went to high school with, and I thought it was really weird. I kept getting messages from him on Facebook, and I was very wary because this man is married. I have no interest in him, obviously, so I thought it was weird that he was messaging me. So he kept saying, hey, and then the next day he would say, hey. I thought maybe he needed something, so I responded back to him, and this is just Facebook Messenger.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I was like, hey, what do you need? And if I didn't have knowledge in what I do for my degree, I would maybe have fallen for this. So
oh no.
This person was very personable, so it obviously wasn't some sort of bot. It was like a legitimate person talking to me. Like, it wasn't just some random AI. It was a legitimate person.
Yeah.
So he messages me and he's like, hey, I'm locked out of my account. Do you mind just sending me these numbers that you get? I'll just text you the numbers and I just need you to read these numbers out to me. It was so funny. Right when he said that, I was like, do I look like a fucking idiot? I'm literally a cybersecurity major. And he said, okay, and then blocked me.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
It was funny. And then, so what they do with these accounts is that they try to get your valuable information through that. So they will take over one of those accounts. And let's say I did send him that number. So essentially what he was trying to do there was he went to Facebook, typed in my email, which he probably found from, it's just on my page.
Right.
Found my email and then sent a code to the email
Yeah.
or a number associated with my account. And then he would use that information to get into my account and then take over my account and just keep it going. Like he took over my friend's account.
Right.
And it's like a cycle to where you're trying to get information from people. One of my other friends said that this classmate had messaged them as well and was asking them to invest in a company. It was very weird. I definitely think this was a rogue person because I don't think that if you had a team of scammers that you would be changing the prompts of what you're trying to do quickly. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then I got word from another person that he was starting with a different prompt as well. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't trying to take over their account and it wasn't trying to invest in a corporation or something. It was very weird.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's an incredibly clever way to get past the multi-factor authentication is through these scams. Like someone you trust, say on Facebook, one of your friends who's already been hacked, say like, oh yeah, I'll just tell you this code. Yeah, no big deal. It's terrible to see that.
I've had that happen relatively close to home. So I came home from work one day and I see my mom and my dad in my mom's office, and they're kind of freaking out and they're on the phone. And I thought maybe somebody died. So I'm in there and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like shushing me. And I was like, oh God. So finally, my mom comes out and she tells me about how she got a phone call about outages in the area. So at the time we had AT&T, and my mom got a phone call from a quote-unquote AT&T representative saying that they wanted to apologize for the outages in the area and they wanted to offer, I believe it was a 30% discount or something like that on the bill.
Oh, okay. So these are quick acting like scammers, right?
Yeah. So my mom was like, hell yeah, I want a discount because there was outages in the area. So she didn't even think twice. So she's like, okay, what do I need?
How long were the outages lasting?
I don't really remember. This is probably about 2 years ago, but I'm not on the same phone plan as my family.
Oh, got you. So in general, these people acted quick on these outages and started taking advantage, right?
Yeah, I personally don't even think they knew that there was outages. I think because my family lives kind of out there. So, I mean, sometimes there's not really great signal. So,
okay.
So I think they just kind of guessed.
That's crazy. That's a crazy coincidence.
It is a crazy coincidence. So they sent my mom a message saying, hey, we're going to send you a text message with a few numbers. I just need you to read these numbers to me. So very similar to the one I was telling you guys about before.
The multi-factor boys.
Yep. So they're like, okay, yeah. And then they gave him the code and he said, okay, great. It's been applied to your account. Gets off the phone. And then not too long later, my mom notices, I believe it's about $2,000 was just taken out of her account.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what these scammers did, what it seems like they did, is that right after they got that authentication from my mom's account, they went into her account, authorized users to buy 2 brand new iPhones. I think at the time it was probably the iPhone 10. So they bought 2 brand new iPhone 10s and just walked out of the store.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How did she get her money back?
Yeah, she got her money back, but it was crazy how fast they work. They did it within like 20 minutes. We're in and out.
Wow. How do you think they actually executed that? Do you have any idea?
So just from the knowledge I've gained going to school and kind of learning about these scammers and stuff, I think probably what happened is that they just spoofed a number that was locally in the area, called my mom, and then they were actually based in California, so they just worked as a team. So they had people just probably
maybe just chilling in the parking lot of one of like the AT&T stores.
Yeah, so I think essentially what they did was they had probably 1 or 2 people working the phones, calling various people who were members of AT&T, and tried to get their information to see if they would like fall for it. And then right as they did, they would just like let the person know, hey, we're approved in this account. Go get this.
Mm-hmm.
So they just go in the store right as it happened.
Dang, I hate how clever that is.
It really is. And at the same, okay, what I think is crazy about that is that they have security cameras in there and everything, and they can see these people going in there. And these companies are just so wealthy. They're just like, yeah, well, we're not really going to investigate it. So they just get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like terrible.
I agree. Like, you see these people on camera, and I'm sure you can see where their car is. And I'm sure it's a whole little gang of people in there scamming people. So
Right.
it's kind of frustrating how much people just don't really care about cybersecurity. I mean, genuinely, that's what it is. They don't care about these frauds that go on online because they can just afford to forget about it.
Yeah, and it completely destroys the reputation of the company. If they're saying if they don't have any sort of back-end security on this stuff, then how can their users trust that their information is still safe?
Exactly. This is just coming from my personal opinion. There are certain companies I will just not do business with at all. Like Wells Fargo, I saw what happened a few years ago with their banking stuff, and they were like making and opening fraudulent accounts. I'm like, I will never bank with them.
Oh, dang, I didn't even hear about that one.
Yeah, they were just opening a bunch of like fraudulent accounts, so I personally will never use them.
Wow, I never heard about that. And I personally use Wells Fargo. That's insane to me.
Oh no.
I better look at something else.
Oh yeah. So now that we've kind of discussed some of the cyber scammers, I really want to start touching on topics about in-person scammers, because I think those are ones that are really looked over nowadays, because we really focus on those warranty callers and the phishing scams, but we don't really talk about the in-person scammers as much anymore, you know?
Exactly. And one that I had specifically in mind was here in Albuquerque, where I'm at. They had one going around where there would be, say, like a really attractive person, typically a woman, who would be like trying to flag down cars like, hey, I need help. And, very pretty lady, someone wants to help. And so they would stop and she would be like, my car just broke down just right around the corner. Can you help me? And they'd be like, yeah, of course, and why not? It's just, maybe you need a jump start or whatever. And so they would drive into like a small alley or something where there'd be a bunch of people just waiting, and they would mug the people who are trying to help. And it's just, they're like taking their money and just beating the hell out of these people. And it's like insane to me that would ever happen.
So, moral of the story, never be a decent person.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't want to be a decent person anymore.
Well, that's the thing about these scammers, is that they take advantage of these people who want to do good. So they're really just making the world a worse place to live in.
Yeah, it's very an untrustworthy place to live in these days.
Exactly. Like, not to use my grandma, for example, but I love her to death, but she's very gullible. She has a really good heart. So it's sad seeing her, well, at least she used to, be taking advantage of people. Like, oh, I'm winning Tucker a new Xbox.
Oh, no.
It's like, no, Grandma, you're not.
Poor Grandma.
So it's just like, it's unfortunate seeing people with like really good hearts be taken advantage of by scammers.
Exactly. And sadly, some of these best people, like the really good ones, are sometimes just the most gullible, and it's really sad to see. And that's why these scammers can make millions and millions of dollars a year just doing that.
Exactly. Like how I was mentioning earlier, how they really just target people's ignorance. Ones that I've really noticed, and I'll leave a few good videos in the description of this episode, but there's a whole series called CBC Marketplace. It's a Canadian broadcasting channel where they have a segment that they do about scammers, essentially. They talk about different methods of how people are being scammed, and they confront these scammers, which is awesome, and I love it, and I live for every single second watching them. So I really encourage you guys to watch them. As I said, I will leave those in the description. But one that I learned about, especially recently from a move I've made, they have one where movers will take advantage of you because you're already stressed out from moving, you're trying to get all your ducks in a row. You're trying to get moved out, finish all the paperwork, do whatever you need to do before you leave. And what these scammers will do is they'll be like, hey, we've got a moving truck coming. This is how much we charge per hour, and then this is how much we charge per square foot.
Okay.
So they'll list the price as like a really decent price,
Yeah.
And then once they get there, they'll start saying stuff that doesn't even make sense. Like, oh, there's a stair fee for going up the stairs. Like, that's not a thing.
What the heck? No.
And then they'll lie about how much space you're taking up and how much square footage you're using. And it'll just keep bumping up the price. So you have to pay them. And so they just think it's okay to scam you because they can essentially take your stuff hostage and say, oh, well, if you don't pay these prices that you agreed to pay in the contract.
We take these as collateral.
Exactly. Or in the episode, they literally dump all of their stuff in the front yard. They just dump it out of there. They were chucking it out of the truck.
Oh
it's
my gosh.
insane.
That's incredibly unethical.
It is. And they take advantage of people who are, living in a very stressful time in their lives, trying to move stuff around, and they're scamming the hell out of them.
Oh, gosh, no. That kind of reminds me of like recently, especially due to COVID, in the computer industry, price gouging and scalpers, especially when it comes to like, for those of you who are familiar with any computer components like NVIDIA graphics card and even AMD processors. NVIDIA came out with a new lineup of graphics cards for desktop computers, and they're selling out within seconds. And then people would go around and sell them for even double the price on eBay that they paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even laws against that. You cannot do that.
I'm very lucky that I built my PC right before it all started happening. Yeah, I built it before everything really started going bad, and I was able to get these parts, but it was even starting to get bad then. I had to go to 2 different Best Buys to get my processor and then to get my
Graphics card?
Yeah, it was a graphics card, yeah.
But back to what you were saying with the computer, I built mine in August of 2019, just kind of before COVID hit as well. I was able to get everything on the internet, luckily. I didn't actually have to go anywhere physically to buy my components. But yeah, scalpers and price gougers definitely came to fruition, and they were a lot more prevalent during COVID-19.
So I was lucky to get those. I had to drive an hour between the two, but I was able to get them. But one thing I noticed recently with those like scalpers and everything, back in mid-February when Texas had the snowpocalypse, people were trying to sell generators for ridiculous amounts of money, and it was sad. I mean, we were out of power for I think 2 days. It was freezing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you were there with me.
I was. It was terribly cold.
But it was cold, and you would go on Facebook Marketplace, and these people are trying to scam the hell out of people who are literally just trying to survive.
Exactly. And that's incredibly scummy of people.
So kind of on topic with the snowpocalypse I was talking about. So after all of the snow and ice melted, people's pipes were bursting, and there was more people who were getting scammed by these repairmen who would fix stuff but like kind of half-ass it, so they wouldn't really fix it to a point where it'd be good. And they'd charge like hundreds of dollars to fix it.
Oh, geez, oh man. They're really taking advantage of the environmental situations.
Well, exactly. And it's not just during like the snowpocalypse, like I was saying, but I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, you'll get a plumber who will sit there for like 5 minutes and already know what's wrong, or might not even have like their certification or whatever, and
oh no,
they'll just sit their ass like alone for 5 minutes and be like, oh, this is what's wrong, you need to buy this part that's $10,000.
Oh,
and they'll be like,
no.
Cash or check.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's definitely corrupt people in every profession like that.
Well, I think when it comes to professions that aren't super common, I guess, or like common knowledge, you know?
Right.
So like, I guess a better way to say that is there's these professions where these people are trying to help you, and so you trust them. Like, oh, well, let's say I need my oil changed, you know?
Right.
So I'm not really a car person. I know a little bit, enough to get by, but I don't know a lot. So there's people who will take advantage of you, like fixing your car, or these people, like I was saying, with the repairman, or like the movers. They're people who are supposed to be there to help you, and you're supposed to be able to trust them, and they take advantage of that trust you give them because you don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly. It's a very specialized job.
Yeah, and then they pretend like they know what they're talking about, even though they could literally know nothing about what they're doing, except to be like, oh, I need to get money out of this person, so
Right.
I'm going to charge them this much.
And it's having
So,
that confidence. The confidence is what gets you.
yeah. And continuing what I was saying with these car people, sometimes you'll go in there for an oil change and you'll leave there with $5,000 worth of repairs you need for your car that you didn't even know you needed.
Exactly.
Which you probably don't even need. They're just trying to get that money out of you.
Yep. And that's actually very common practice amongst car companies in general. My brother has worked for 3 different types of dealerships. He worked at many different dealerships physically, but 3 different types. And they always did that. They would try to upsell people on parts they really didn't need. It was just like parts that had minor damage that could definitely get thousands and thousands of more miles out of before it even needed to be looked at, but they would still try to upsell these people on it. My brother was even a part of that. Now, he wasn't doing that to get money for himself, because the sales he made on that didn't really benefit him in any way. He would just upsell these people because that was kind of what the company told him to do.
Yeah.
And so he's implicitly scamming these people unknowingly.
Exactly. And I think sometimes they even like realize it, but they just can't do anything about it. I mean, that's how they make their income, and it sucks, you know?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it sucks that a company would put you in that position to where you need to, like when you're buying a new car and they say, oh, well, you should purchase the warranty. Never, ever, 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 ever purchase the warranty. It does not do anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's like, so, I don't even know how much it is. I know it's like over $1,000 though. Don't do it. If there's one thing my dad taught me, never, ever, 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 ever buy the warranty.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree. Because right now, my brother actually works as a car warranty claims adjuster. And sometimes I'll just overhear him working, because he works from home. I'll overhear him talking to people, and it's just like, oh, sorry, your contract doesn't cover this, your contract doesn't cover this, or this, or this. And it's just like, well, what does it cover at this point? It just seems
Nothing.
like they're paying for nothing.
Which they essentially are.
Yeah. And funny enough, it just got me remembering about one, if we circle back to the technology side of things, and it's a bit of a stretch and not necessarily a scam. I guess more I would say not explicitly a scam, but more implicitly, and you can lose a lot of money from it, is early on computer viruses, like from the 90s and stuff. I remember there was this one virus, and it was labeled "I love you." It was an email scam, or virus rather. This was back when you could just open an email and it could put software onto your computer. Now that's not really a thing anymore.
I just wanted to add really quick, just in school learning about these computer viruses from the 90s, they either have super sick names like Dark Horse 3000 or the Demon Ripper or something like that, or they have super dorky names just like
Stormworm.
yeah, I mean, I'm even talking about just like random numbers and stuff like that. They're either like super cool or just absolutely dorky.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no in between.
Right, exactly. And circling back to this "I love you" virus, it was a college student who was going to do research and submitted one of his research papers to the dean saying, hey, I have this program on my computer that can do this. And the dean completely rejected it and said, hey, this is illegal, and if you use this for your research, I'm going to kick you out of college. This kind of upsetted this one individual, and so he decided to, on the side, continue with this virus, and he basically expanded upon it. And it would, if someone opened this email and it was labeled "I love you," so someone would click it and be like, what? And it would just immediately infect your computer, and it would take all of your email contacts and send "I love you" as a subject line to all of their contacts. And then other people would open it, and it was this crazy domino effect, and it actually caused billions of dollars of loss.
Wow. Did he ever get in trouble?
He did. He actually got caught with it, and I don't know if he's still serving prison time, but I know that he is not allowed to use computers anymore.
How do you just not ever use computers anymore?
I know, especially in this day and age, but I think he's tracked by the government or something. He's not allowed to use computers because he just did this.
Okay, if the government were smart, they would be like, hey, King, we need you. We need your help. And, like, recruit him.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, but I don't know. I guess they just can't trust him that he would use it for non-malicious purposes, his knowledge.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that was all I had for the computer virus aspect. I just wanted to circle back to that real quick because it sparked my memory on that one.
Okay. So I would like to include some good methods of how to avoid being scammed by people.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Some of the methods that I think will be really good for avoiding being scammed by the cyber scammers would be absolutely do not click links unless you know what the link is or you are expecting a link from somebody. Because you can't even trust sometimes your friends sending you links. I would just be very wary on what the link is. Some methods you can look at when looking at the link. This will work a majority of the time, but at the top of my list of things to do to avoid being scammed by cyber scammers would be don't ever click links sent to you through text messages, DMs, or emails, especially if you do not know where it's going or it's unsolicited and you don't know the person who's sending it to you.
Exactly. If you're expecting one, then sure. But if you're not, definitely be wary of them because they can take a lot of your information. Like how I said before, just clicking a link, they can gather your IP address, geolocate you, get information about the device you even click that link on. It's insane the things they can get, and it can also deploy software onto your devices. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I will include some links in the description that can help you identify and notice maybe some phishing links and ways to avoid them.
So if you're getting an email or you're getting a text from your phone, your quote-unquote phone company, make sure before you click any of the links, even if it looks legit, look at the number it's sending it from. If it's sending it from a number that is a complete 10-digit phone number, it's probably not legit. They're usually going to text you from like a 5-digit phone number.
Exactly.
And then if you're getting emails from your bank or what you think is your bank and it looks legit, before you click any of those links, look at the email that's sending it. Make sure it's spelled correctly and that that's the one that you're usually getting emails from, because it'll be something even minor, but off by like one little slash.
Yeah, exactly. And following along with that, if I get an email from, say, my bank or anything, I will never click login links from there. I will go directly to their website to log in to see if the information within that email is correct.
That's exactly what I do. That's just good practice. I personally do what David does. I don't ever click links unless I'm expecting the link. If I do get inquiries from my bank or any other things warning me that my payment didn't go through or whatever, I will make sure just to go straight to the website, because then you know it's legit.
Yeah. And there's even some emails that say, call this customer service line that's in the email. Don't do that either. Google the customer service line of, say, like Amazon or whatever the email sent you. So that way you know you're getting the correct number rather than the one that's in the email.
Exactly, because they'll just put the number that they have. They're not even gonna bother. One thing that I suggest doing is just making sure your passwords are secure. I know this kind of goes more with hacking instead of scamming because, as I said, scammers aren't really smart. They just know how to manipulate you. But just make sure you have very strong passwords and don't use the same password. Do not use the same password for multiple accounts.
Exactly. I usually keep a bank of about 8 passwords between all of my things.
Okay. I'm like, couldn't be me.
Yeah, you use the random password generator, correct?
Yeah. So they do have websites where you can do a random password generator if that helps. And then Depending on your operating system, you will have an option to save it. I don't know what's Microsoft's version of it.
Yeah, the Microsoft version, at least they have it in Chrome. You can save your passwords. I never really do that. There is a software you can download that we even use in my organization. It's free. It's called Password Safe. If you Google PW Safe, you should be able to find it.
I personally use 1Password. I think it's $3.99 a month. It's definitely worth it to me. I like it, but if you're not looking to pay, just use the password safe. Is that what it is?
Password Safe, exactly.
Yeah. One last thing I want to mention about cyber scammers is, to take it from the stories I've told you today, do not ever provide people with your multi-factor login information. If you receive a text from Facebook or Instagram or whatever to log into your account, don't provide that information to any third-party source, because nobody's going to ask for that. It's automated.
Exactly.
No person from Facebook calling you is going to ask about that, you know?
Absolutely. And it's even in Facebook's privacy policy that their employees will not call you and ask for your login information or any information about you in regards to logins or anything like that.
Just be very wary of people asking for any of your information over the phone in general. Like, I know this has been stated a million times. The IRS will not call you.
Absolutely.
These government organizations are not going to call you. They have better ways of getting in contact with you. They'll probably, if they really wanted to get to you, they will show up at your house. They're not going to call you.
Yeah. And typically they'll send you something by mail, which you also do need to be wary about scammers in that sense. It's a little less prevalent, but just be also wary that that is a thing.
Mm-hmm. If anybody asks you to cash checks for them, don't do it.
That's right. I do remember that scam being a thing.
Because you will get in trouble and you will not be allowed to bank with your bank anymore because they think you are the scammer. Do not ever cash these checks from people who are trying to give you checks. And it is 2020. Who is giving you checks nowadays unless it's your employer? And even then, a good 80% of companies, I feel, are going to just do direct deposit. So
that's fair. And I mean, my grandma for my birthday will send me a check sometimes, but that's from a personal standpoint, not so much from a company.
Yeah, that's somebody who you know. Just don't ever accept checks from people you don't know and aren't working with. If it's just some random person trying to send you a check, do not give out your bank information to random people. Do not give out your personal information to people. Do not give your social security number. Keep all of that private unless you can confirm their identity and confirm they are a legitimate person.
Source. Yes.
A legitimate source. Yeah, sorry. So now that we've covered some of these cyber scammers' methods and how to avoid being scammed by them, I want to talk about how you can avoid being scammed in person. So from watching these CBC videos on YouTube, I've found a very common way to avoid being scammed, especially by people who are providing you a service such as your plumber or your handyman or anything like that. Just stay in the same room as them. I know as a woman that can be a little bit difficult if you're alone, but just if you can, just try to be in the room with them. Make sure they are actually doing work.
Exactly. Yep.
And if somebody's asking you to pay a lot of money, always get a second opinion. Do not just take what they say as fact. Just take it with a grain of salt, because what one place might find as an issue, the other place might not even see an issue at all. So you really need a second opinion as well.
I absolutely agree with that.
Another thing that you can do to stay safe from in-person scammers is always look at reviews. I know a lot of people will only write reviews when they're upset or they have complaints about a company, but...
or if they're really, really happy or satisfied.
Exactly. So I think it's important to look at these reviews. And if they don't have any reviews, I would be very wary of that, because that is a sign that they are getting reviews deleted, or they aren't a legitimate company and they are scamming you. So I would be very, very wary of those reviews. And if you notice in the reviews, people are kind of bringing up the same things, that's a big sign that it's probably going to happen to you as well. So,
especially if it's negative, yes.
yeah, like if they're bringing up unexpected charges, which is like a big thing, especially for the movers that we were talking about, be very wary because they are going to absolutely do that to you as well. I think in situations to avoid being jumped, as David had mentioned in the story he provided, I think it's very important to, first of all, don't pick up strangers. And second of all, if you really want to help somebody, just call somebody for assistance. Just say, hey, I will call somebody to come help you. Do you have a family member? Do you have anybody who can help you? Do not personally pick them up, take them anywhere, because that is just asking for trouble. Even though you're just trying to do good, there is a high potential that you can be like harming yourself with that.
Yeah, that's a very solid piece of advice.
This week we got a few more responses, so I wanted to start out before we get into the topic. I wanted to thank you guys so much for sending in some of your advice requests. We still do need some more. We got some really good ones that we will be having for the next few weeks, so thank you guys. Yeah. But if you guys do want to submit some more requests for advice, head over to any of our social medias and click the link tree and click advice and then fill out the form. And it is 100% confidential. We don't save any of your information, only the statement in which you need help with.
Exactly. So go ahead and hop on over there and your response may end up in a video.
Mm-hmm. I do appreciate you guys sending them in. I really love it. Some of these topics are really good. And I do love helping, so let's get into this topic today. So,
yes, please.
So this week, somebody asked, how do I get my girlfriend to participate in hobbies she doesn't want to participate in?
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
So I'm thinking, I've actually encountered this. I've had even some ex-girlfriends that my hobby's very different from theirs, and sometimes we're just like hanging out and we're just doing one of my hobbies, say videography or photography, anything like that. Generally what I would say is to just try to make it as fun as you can and try to kind of incorporate some of their interests into what you're doing.
Okay, I definitely see that. Personally, I think a lot of people who are in relationships have just gone through this, because despite how similar you and your partner are, you're always just gonna have those things that your partner's not gonna want to do, and that's fine, you know? You are very passionate about videography and photography, and I love that about you. I love hearing you talk about it, and it's one of the many reasons why I love you.
Thank you.
Of course, I mean, you're very knowledgeable about it, and that's just really attractive to me. So I can see you being passionate about it, and I love that. But personally, when I do it, it's like a whole other language to me. You'll talk about it, and it's, as I said, it's just completely going over my head. But I love hearing about it, and I love seeing you happy, and I love you doing it. And I think that sometimes, if the person you're with is not interested in it, just find ways to do it with them that aren't kind of forcing it on them. You know, you can enjoy photography while there are some hobbies that I do that you just personally can't get into, like makeup. I mean, it's just not your thing, you know?
Right.
So I think there's ways you can kind of incorporate your partner into that. So if I do my makeup, then you can take a photo of it. So you guys just both do your hobbies together, but it's like together but separate, you know?
Exactly. And that's how I feel like you could incorporate it and make things fun and make things really interesting between the two. And maybe I can learn something about like your makeup, or you can learn something new about photography along the way.
Exactly. So I think forcing her into doing what you want to do is just not really the right way to go, but kind of just make it known that you want to experience these things with her, you know, and you want to do these things.
Right. And I feel like if you're happy doing these things, then your partner would be happy seeing you happy.
Exactly. Like, I know this will resonate with a lot of people who have gamer partners, but sometimes one of the people just doesn't really game. So your partner will be sitting on the couch for hours gaming, and sometimes you can just watch because you don't game, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you could totally be asking questions about it too, and I think that could incorporate some very interesting conversations, and you both can have fun doing that.
Exactly. So to basically sum up what I'm saying, just don't push her into doing stuff she doesn't want to do, but let her know that she is welcome to join you.
Exactly, and communication is key.
Exactly. I think you said that really well.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
So, yeah, guys, I think that just about wraps up our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one. And remember, stay sunny.
Stay sunny.